Okay, in today's video, I want to talk about why I don't think that TV sitcoms are as good as they used to be, and why I don't think it's the fault of the TV shows, but it's actually our fault. So, this idea came from when I was looking into, what do we consider those like legendary shows of all time, what define our childhood? How I Met Your Mother, The Big Bang Theory, Modern Family, The Office, shows like this, and why is there just nothing what feels the same anymore? And my theory is that it's not to do with that TV is falling off, but it's just that our habits have changed so much that we don't fit the ability to make good comedy anymore as a viewer. So let me explain. I think the first reason why is to do with the amount of episodes and streaming services. And this is the main reason why overall in this video. So let's just think about it logically, right? So take a show like The Office. The Office, Modern Family, whatever. These shows ran for damn near a decade. Same with The Big Bang Theory, same with Friends, same with so many shows. They ran for a damn near a decade. And what that created was the ability for us to form relationships with these characters on a very deep and fundamental level. Because as these characters grew, so did we. No matter if you started watching the show when you were 12 years old, when you finished the show when you were 22 years old, or you started the show as a teenager and it finished when you were married with kids yourself. You grew as the characters grew. And I think that's a beautiful thing and something which is so hard to replicate in the era of streaming. The nature of the streaming platforms is this. If a show drops all, say, 6 episodes, which is another issue for the fact that there's less episodes, but say that it's dropped all the episodes in one go, you're just going to watch the show, move on, and forget about it in a few months. And this is where another part of the problem is the amount of episodes. Shows used to drop 20 episodes a season, 23 episodes a season, and they'd come out one a week, maybe with a mid-season break, and they would take the better part of 6 months to get through per season. It became part of your routine, like to watch the show every Thursday, Friday, whatever it may be. So it kind of just became part of your life. And that's a very comforting thing, but it also allows for a slightly lower level of like quality of production. And what I mean by that is you're just used to it. So a show is a 7 out of 10 where you're like comfortable to sit through it and you maybe get a couple dry laughs out of the episode. And it's just a pretty good show. I consider a show like The Big Bang Theory a 7 out of 10. You would sit through that back 10, 15 years ago and go through it because it gave you something to do as a bit of fun. Today, if a show's a 7 out of 10, you're either doom scrolling on your phone whilst watching it, or you're just going to turn it off, or you'll just like power it through a few episodes and it's a fun thing to do on an evening or a weekend, and then you're going to forget about the show afterwards. And it's just so much harder to build those relationships because of that, right? It's very difficult. And that's going to speak into another issue we have with viewing habits themselves. Back in the day, when you were watching a show, it was your primary point of attention. It just was because there was less of a stimulus. So you're going to sit there, you're going to enjoy the show for half an hour, and you're going to move on with your day. Whereas today, half the people, particularly people who are just like watching sitcoms as background noise, it's just that. It's background noise. They're watching it, scrolling on their phone. So it forces the writers in a position where they either have to do something very spectacularly funny, which by spectacularly funny, I mean it's silly, it's visually stimulating, or they have to farm for engagement on the thing you're doom scrolling, right? Where they have to make a show and make the script to have certain jokes or bits of dialogue, which is very clippable. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to make a good show right now, because there have been good comedy sitcoms which have felt incredibly heartwarming, and people have been able to form relationships with the characters. And I think the best example of that in recent memory is Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso did it right. Yes, the episodes dumped in one go, but over the stretch of a show, you developed relationships with the characters, you saw the character development, and even if you binged it all in one go, which is what I did, because I was a little bit late to the party, you still felt immense emotion for the character development, for Roy, for Keely, for Nate, for Ted, for all of them. But I just want to say that I think Ted Lasso is an excellent show, and it's the exception, not the rule. I genuinely think that Ted Lasso was excellent in writing and acting, in story and narrative. And the reality is a lot of our shows we used to watch back in the day, they weren't that. And like, I think the best example of that is The Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory is good, not great. And I will die on this hill. Because I was recently rewatching a couple episodes back, because you know how these shows are. They're just the only things on certain TV channels where like they just play reruns on and on and on and on. And I was rewatching it, and I was like, damn, like this is not that good. But we have such like affinity and such love and care for certain characters because you just watch them for so long in your life. And I don't think that can be understated. Like a decade? Do you know what kind of emotional connection that allows you to build with somebody? My favorite example of this, and I rant to my wife about this often, is The Office. Imagine watching the relationship of Jim and Pam in real time. They don't get together until I think season 4, because they have the first couple seasons where it doesn't work out. Then he goes to like Boston or wherever, Syracuse, somewhere else, and then he comes back with Karen. Like, there's all these things. If you're a regular viewer, and everybody could obviously see they were gonna end up together, they're a great match, and their chemistry on screen is palpable. You can feel the chemistry they have on screen. It would have taken you like 3-4 years of your actual life for them to get together. That's insane to me. Like, you would have felt the yearning on such a fundamental level. You would have been wanting that relationship to form for years of your actual life. And I'm sure there was loads of people who could have related to the story as it was happening. Maybe they were in a friendship situationship, and then they get to see that happen on screen. And in that 3 and 4 years, maybe they found their person. It helps you build these like micro relationships. And it sounds silly and like extreme to make these comparisons, but it's true, because a lot of sitcoms, particularly for Gen Z, it defined their generation and maybe inspired people to do certain careers or inspired people to do certain things in life, because you fell in love with so many of the characters. You fell in love with their stories, their relationships. Jake and Amy, Jim and Pam, Phil and Claire, Jay and Gloria. Like, these are legendary relationships which you saw grew and you felt them grow. And sometimes now, when you're watching these, new comedies on streaming platforms like the Office spin-off, like Paper, Abbott Elementary to an extent, Superstore to an extent, you just find it hard to fall in love with the relationships the same way. Maybe because we do have a degree of nostalgia set on what our expectations were. And, there's kind of, we have the relationship so high for a great relationship in a TV show. And it just doesn't feel the same way now. But I actually just think it's that the margin for error to put out a good show is so slim. It's so slim now. It has to be excellent to captivate you. And I don't think it used to have to be excellent. It used just to have to be good and fun and not stress you out. And it used to just have to keep your attention for half an hour once a week. Whereas now it has to be so good that it has to have the capacity to keep your attention for 5 hours on a row where you're willing to binge it. So the acting has to be much better, the writing has to be better, the music has to be better, the sets have to be better, and that's more expensive. And it's a hell of a lot more difficult to put out, and it's a hell of a lot more difficult to put that out at scale, which is why these great comedies now, like Bear, even though we really call them the Bear comedy, or Ted Lasso, they can only ever be like 8 episodes a season max. It's really tough. And that's why I feel like, honestly, I don't know if there ever will be a good sitcom again, at least not the way we know it, because the best part about sitcoms is the relationships you have with the characters and seeing them grow. And the reality is the only people who have the attention of people on a daily basis these days are content creators, YouTubers, streamers. They have the people. And like, they have the people's attention every day. And that's why their fandom is rising so high, because they kind of, that's the audience they've stolen from. They've stolen from those repetitive viewers who used to have a routine of watching the same show every day, every week. They've taken from them, and that's why they're doing so well, and that's what they understood. It's very, very difficult. Some people are still able to stay in the game, people like Marvel on Disney, where they release episodes staggered, and Prime does it with big shows like The Boys, where they stagger the episodes, but it just doesn't feel the same. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from, and if you did like the video, drop a like, please subscribe. I try to upload every single day. Thanks for watching.